For this problem, we are asked to find the equation of a sine function that has these given properties. So if you recall, the sine function, its general equation is y equals a times the sine of omega x minus phi plus b. So we need to try and find the values of a, omega, phi, and b so that we can write our equation. So we need a, omega, phi, and b. So we know that a is just the value that gives us our amplitude, and that the amplitude is equal to the absolute value of a. And because we know that our amplitude is 2, but we're not given any more information, there are two different numbers that could make have the absolute value that are 2, right? So a can be either positive or negative 2. So a is plus or minus 2. Next, we can find omega. Well, actually, we can find b first because this tells us there's no vertical shift. Our midline hasn't changed or anything, so the value of b is 0. And then now let's find omega. So omega is something that helps us find the value of the period. So we know the period is 4 pi. And we know that to find the period, we use the equation 2 pi divided by omega. So we can just take the cross product. So we end up with 4 pi times omega equals 2 pi. Divide, and we get that omega is 2 pi over 4 pi, which is 1/2. So omega is 1/2. So, and then we need to find phi. So let's go ahead and start writing our equation. So it's y equals a is plus or minus 2 times the sine of omega is 1/2 x. And then we still need to find phi. So if you recall, the phase shift was just, so phase shift was phi divided by omega. So we're told that that is going to equal negative pi over 2. And we know the value of omega. Omega is 1/2. So phi divided by 1/2 is equal to negative pi over 2. When you're dividing by a fraction, you can multiply by the reciprocal. So we end up with 2 phi equals negative pi over 2. Divide by 2 or multiply by 1/2, and we get that phi is negative pi over 4. So negative pi over 4. Now, because this phase shift is negative, what that means is our graph is going to be shifting to the left pi over 4 units. And since it's shifting left, that means that the value that goes in here is going to be a positive value, right? Because if you think about this negative pi over 4, when it gets substituted in here, we're subtracting a negative, so it becomes positive. So it's going to be plus pi over 4. And this right here would be the equation of our sine function with these given properties.